Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first ever virtual wine tasting fundraiser. This event is raising funds to support our summer camp financial assistance program, where we're helping youth be able to enjoy the facilities that the Y has to offer. And I thank you so very much for being here today, because your presence, even though it's virtual, shows us that you support our mission and our vision, and I'm grateful for that. And on behalf of our board of directors, especially on behalf of our chair, Laura Bretzker, I want to welcome you and ask you to make sure that you're home comfortably and are enjoying this event. We appreciate your support, we appreciate your generosity, and we look forward to a great and informative evening. Enjoy your wine, enjoy your cheese. Now I'd like to introduce Melinda Disla, CEO of the Gateway Family YMCA, to add her words of support.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you all for joining us this evening to support summer camp financial assistance. I especially want to thank our grand sponsor, the Columbia Bank Foundation. The Gateway Family YMCA has 6 branches in Elizabeth, Rahway, and Union, and provides services across 17 communities throughout Eastern Union and Northern Middlesex counties. This year, we are celebrating 123 years of service. Each year, we raise funds to ensure everyone has access to programs and services at our YMCA through the generosity of donors like you, community partners, and grant funders. Tonight's fundraiser is to support our camp's financial assistance program. Last year, over 700 children participated at camp. I want to share a brief quote from one of our camp families. "My son has always loved going to summer camp at the Y. The variety of activities keeps him well entertained, and he can't wait to go back. He has made great friends and enjoyed interacting with the counselors, trying new things, and swimming. He can't get enough of swimming. And I love that he is learning to be safe around the water." I am happy to share that the money raised for tonight's event will give 37 children the experience of friendship, learning, water safety, and fun at summer camp this summer. Thank you. On behalf of the Gateway Family YMCA board and staff, the Columbia Bank Foundation, and our other sponsors for tonight's event, Natoli Construction Corporation, Major Printing, Elberon Development Group, Statewide Sanitation Service, Cavanta, and Versi Vino. I invite you to sit back and enjoy this evening. Now I am pleased to introduce Christine Zubris, Versi Vino Wine Bar and Kitchen owner in Maple Shade, New Jersey. Christine will take us on our global wine tour this evening. Enjoy.
Good evening. Hope everyone is having a wonderful time. I would really love to know how many people decided to open their wine ahead of time. I guess that wasn't part of the instructions, but so be it. And if you did, okay. Hope you didn't drink them all or eat all the cheese just yet, because we're going to do a little bit of fun pairing as we go through this class. Welcome to our global wine tour. We're taking a little trip around the globe because it is summertime. And one thing I want to mention is I was pretty deliberate and strategic about where we're going, because it has to be summertime in these areas. If we went to the Southern Hemisphere, it's actually wintertime down in Argentina and Australia and South Africa, some major wine producing countries down in the Southern Hemisphere. So we're really sticking to this whole summer theme and really trying to taste some wines from around the globe. So thank you again for joining. Just want to give you 2 seconds about me, just so you know who's actually talking to you about wine. And then I know a little bit about wine. So I'm Christine. I'm a chemistry nerd. I studied chemistry in college and I have a degree in chemistry. I worked not in the wine industry for a very long time, for about 16 years. I worked in the pharma and biotech industry with that chemistry degree. And then I decided I wanted to change the way people experienced wine in the suburbs in New Jersey. I feel like I always had to go to a big city to experience a really fun wine experience. And I decided to open up a restaurant with 0 years of experience in the restaurant industry or business. I never served a table, never cooked for a big staff or big crowd, had no experience. And I just jumped right in, kind of crazy, bought a liquor license and decided to open up Versi Vino. I'm a certified sommelier, which is through the Court of Master Sommeliers. I'm also a certified specialist of wine through the Wine Education Society. And I'm also a diploma student, which is actually taking me the longest to complete, through the Wine Spirits Education Trust. So I have a lot of pins, which I don't wear because I don't wear a jacket with a lapel, just to prove, and certificates all over the place to prove that I have a lot of wine knowledge. I love to drink wine, but I really love to get to the nitty gritty of wine. If you've never heard of Versi Vino, or you may have heard of it, last year in New Jersey Monthly Magazine, they had a list of restaurants throughout the state. And we weren't one of the 30 best restaurants, but I'm pushing for that this year because I do think we're pretty fantastic. We made 2 more important lists, a short list of best wine lists in the entire state of New Jersey, and also part of one of 8 of the best restaurants in New Jersey, which was pretty spectacular. I was shocked when the editor reached out to me and told me this, and thrilled all at the same time. But anyway, that's who I am. That's what Versi Vino is. So you really got some real wine chops teaching you today. So just in case you were worried, who's this person? That's who I am. Well, let's go into the wine tasting because that's why you're here. So I wanted to go through just some basics of tasting. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to open bottle number 1 if you haven't opened it yet. So wine number 1 is the Aveleda Vino Verde. Okay, it's this bottle. It's a green tinted bottle or green cap, screw cap. Nice until you get to the sparkling wine when you have to open the sparkling. Normally when I open wines that are under screw cap, number 1, it doesn't mean that it's a bad wine. I actually pray and always wish that the wines had screw caps because it means I don't need to go fish out a corkscrew or a wine key, although I always have them all over the place. Dangerous when you fly a lot. You have to, and I end up throwing them out because I can't make it through TSA with a corkscrew in my purse. Anyhow, so I normally don't open up with the cap. I actually grab the collar, which is this part right here, and I twist from the collar instead of the cap. I have broken the thread, and I've actually had to get pliers out just by trying to unscrew the cap. So again, your choice on how you want to do it. But if you ever want to really look like a professional, just like take your hand on the collar and just twist the collar instead of the actual screw cap itself. Little lesson learned. If you learn one thing, maybe it's that for this evening. Just kidding. I hope you learn a lot. So when you're pouring your wine in your glass, I have wine glasses. These are just normal tasting glasses at my restaurant. So you'll see that I didn't pour the full glass, the whole pour, or fill up the glass to the top. I'm only pouring about 2 ounces in here. You don't have to measure it, but the idea is that I want you to be able to swirl your glass, and I'll talk about swirling in a second. I also want you to be able to get your schnoz in your glass or cup. If you got a plastic cup, that's okay too. This is my spit cup. Unfortunately, I do have to work this evening at the restaurant, so I want to make sure that I'm not too toasty by the time dinner service ends. So yeah, so you want to make sure you can get your nose in the cup without ingesting any of the wine through your nose, inhaling it. That's not very pleasant. And I want to make sure you can smell the wine as well. So when we're sniffing, so before you swirl, give it a little tilt and stick your nose in there and give it a smell. Okay, I'd like you to sniff the wine. Now, when we're smelling wines, I'm not making things up. All the smells or the aromas that I smell are things that are basically part of nature, part of my everyday life. So example, if something smells like apples or oranges or limes or lemons, a lot of times I'm like, oh, I can't put my finger on that. What is that smell? And then if I think about something like a lemon, all right, a lemon, the pith inside the lemon tastes and smells differently than the skin and then the juice itself. So I like to think of things as layers, or fruits and veggies as layers, and rocks and grass and whatever aromas that I'm used to. Now, remember, the things that we smell are never added into the wine. This is just grapes, 100% grapes. The way the wines get their aromas and flavors is through the type of grape, whether it's a Cabernet or Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, or Pinot Noir, for example, or how they make it, right? Is it made in stainless steel tanks? So therefore, it's not going to have any impact to the flavors. They want to create a really fruit-forward style wine instead of oak, which if it's in a barrel, for example. So it really just comes from the grapes where they're grown also has something to do with it as well. Okay, so we sniffed. To me, this smells really fresh and vibrant. Wine number one smells very fresh and vibrant. I get a little bit of lime, something like white flowers, a little bit of flower as well. And yeah, like just citrus, just really pretty when I smell this wine. I'm just like, oh, I can take some of this and like dab it on my neck if I forgot some perfume. May attract some bugs also or flies. It just smells really nice. Okay, so then you want to swirl. Now, if you struggle with swirling, what you want to do is you take your table, okay, you want to put your glass on the table. I just have a pad, and you basically want to use the table as something to lean your glass on, right? A little bit of tension there, and just swirl until you're like actually swirling. Now, I'm just swirling in my hand in the air, but again, I'm just going to swirl. Maybe you can hear it on my desk, on my table. Okay, you're swirling. We're swirling to open up the wine, to get some oxygen in, to let some of those aromas really ride up the glass. Smell again. Okay, smells delicious. Same thing. All right. And now once you've done sniffing and swirling and all that stuff, the S's, then you want to do the final S, which is sip. Okay, maybe that's not the final S. Sip, swish, and then maybe savor. All right, so let's take a sip. Now, a sip is a small sip. We're not taking a big gulp. You don't want to swallow it. When you sip, you kind of want to coat your mouth. You don't have to be ostentatious and be like, nothing like that, right? You could if you want to let some air in. But you know, it's just like a little tiny sip of air in while you have the wine in your mouth. Here's what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. Okay. Is that not delicious? I want to be, well, maybe not today with the smoke outside, but I want to be sitting outside on the porch, maybe reading a book, at the beach, at a pool. I want to be someplace where the sun is shining and it's really beautiful. This is a summertime porch pounder wine. That's what I would call this. I could finish this entire bottle in probably 2 hours, maybe less, because it's just delicious. It's light, it's elegant, pretty, has a little bit of effervescence, not sparkling, has a little like fizziness. We call that effervescence or frizzante on the palate. Again, just a little tingle, nothing too intense there. Really tasty, lots of lime. It is like lime, like juice on the palate. Really lots of lime. Really love the wine. Let's talk a little bit about more of wine number one. So what cheese should you be pairing with this wine? Oh, how'd they get there? Just kidding. These are Laksha sheep. Laksha sheep are, they're found in Spain, just on the Spanish side of the Pyrenees Mountains. And the Pyrenees Mountains are what separate Spain from France. But these are Laksha sheep, really beautiful coats. And they make our first cheese that we are going to eat with our first wine, which hopefully you poured some in your glass already. So your first cheese is called Aditябal, and Aditябal is the cheese that looks like it's a semi-firm cheese, and it's the square one, not the rectangle. There were two cheeses, one more rectangular and one a little more squared. Aditябal, again, it's from the Spanish side of the Pyrenees, from the Basque region of Spain. It is a sheep's milk cheese. It is unpasteurized. So if you're expecting a child, you may not want to eat this, but it is unpasteurized, but it has been aged long enough for us to be able to receive this in the US. It is slightly smoked, and I kind of call this the better, cooler, smarter, more sophisticated cousin of Manchego, because Manchego is another Spanish sheep's milk cheese. It's rich, buttery, but has a little bit of sharpness to it. I could eat tons of aditsibel. Now, all 4 of your cheeses, you can eat the rind to all of them. You may not want to. You might not be a bloomy rind kind of person, but you are welcome to eat the rind, except for the piave, which is the other hard cheese. It's the true hard cheese. That's the one more of the rectangle shape. That cheese, which we're going to save for later, that cheese has a little bit of paper on the outside. Do not eat the paper. Paper is not edible. This does not have any paper on it. It has a small label that we peel off. But this cheese, Aditsabel, comes from Spain. It is made from the Laksha sheep, really beautiful sheep, sheep's milk. Again, it's similar to Manchego, but a little more serious, a little more hip, and super delicious. And I thought it would go great with the Vino Verde. And I'll tell you why in a second. Most of the time, I would consider pairing a high acidity wine like Vino Verde with a high acidity cheese like a goat's cheese. You can save a little bit of the goat's cheese, or if you've eaten it all, I get it. But the goat's cheese is the one that comes in a circle, and it looks like it has a couple layers in it, right? It has the outer bloomy rind. If you wanted to taste a little bit of the goat cheese with this, you're welcome to as well. And I think the Aditsabel, to me, is paired better because I feel like it helps balance the acidity. Think about lemonade, right? When you have really, really acidic lemon water and you add a little bit of sugar to it and you shake that up or stir that up, it makes a beautiful lemonade, right? It's the same thing when we're pairing acid and fat like cheese. High acid wine, fattier cheese like this, go perfect together. Okay, so that's your cheese that you're going to be drinking. And let's talk a little bit more about Vino Verde. So number one, we don't call it Verde. Maybe if we were in Spain, we'd call it Verde. But my Portuguese server always calls it Vino Verde. Verde, no E, you drop off the E. And then you'll sound like a professional wine drinker. So Vino Verde actually translates to green wine. Just because it's in a green bottle is not why it's called green wine. It is called green wine because this part of Portugal gets a lot of rain and it is very green. So the landscape is super green, lots of humidity. It kind of gets beat by the Atlantic Ocean here. So you get a lot of humidity coming off of the Atlantic Ocean. And you have this very green, lush area in Portugal. Okay. Again, this is the region, Vino Verde. If you look in the upper left-hand corner right here, right on the border of Spain to the north, and the Atlantic Ocean or Sea to the west. That is the Vino Verde region. The cool thing about Vino Verde is that there are 6 white grapes. Actually, there's more. There are 6 white grapes that can go into this wine. Your most common ones are Alvarinho, Trejadora, Loureiro, Arinto, Azal, Aveso. Okay, those are your white grapes. So this is a white blended wine. You typically wouldn't get a single varietal in a Vino Verde. They usually like to blend them up because each grape adds a different component to the wine, which is kind of fun. It is a dry, fruity, fizzy, and low alcohol wine. Okay, so little fizz, fruit, and dry. This wine, the ABV on this wine is 9.5%. That is low in wine world, but that's the intention. They're making an everyday drinking wine. I would cook with this wine if you ever needed something to marinate like chicken or deglaze maybe some risotto. Vino Verde is a great wine to do that. Always pick something that you like to drink, right? If you like to drink, you can have a glass for you, a little bit for the pot, and you'll be set. Now, this wine, what does it really go with? What does Vino Verde go with? It goes with fish tacos, seafood, sushi, picnics, apparently, the beach, right? I said, I want to be outside in a beautiful sunny day, salads. It's a great aperitif. It doesn't need food. You can just drink it without actually having any sort of food, which is kind of nice. It's not it doesn't require food to drink it. You'll also see on the bottom right, what does it taste like? We got grapefruit, lime blossom. Remember that floral limeness that I get in here? Some white melon, gooseberry, and it could also taste a little more like lemonade. You'll see in the back, this is actually a picture from the vineyards at Aveleda, and you'll see that the grapes are grown a little differently. They have to be grown up high so that any sort of wind comes in and helps dries any humidity, so that doesn't grow a lot of mildew, because you don't want that on your grapes. So this is the 2022 Aveleda Vino Verde. Aveleda it's a large winery. They make a lot of wine. So you'll be able to find this locally by you, wherever you live. And it's in their 5th generation. It is still family owned, 5th generation of ownership. Fonte, this means fountain in Portuguese. And this is, I took a little screenshot down below from their website. They make a lot of different wines. They make more serious wines as you go up in price point. But they have different classifications of wine. This is their typical expression of what Vino Verde should taste like. In this wine, we have the Loureiro, Arinto, Trechadura, and Fernão Pires, which is another Portuguese white wine, or white grape. They harvest these grapes at night to avoid oxidation and to make sure that the grapes stay crisp and really fresh, ready for bringing them into the winery. They ferment in stainless steel, which means it's going to be a very fruit forward, showing the varietal characteristics of the wine. And again, the notes, I get so much lime, green apple, some minerality. It is a delicious wine. Okay. Again, when you're eating the cheese and drinking wine, I normally suggest taste your wine first, wine before cheese, then take a little bite of your cheese, take another sip of wine, take another bite of cheese, see how the wine impacts the cheese. Do you like the wine more? Do you like the cheese more? Just like if you don't like a cheese, I normally say go into your fridge and get some grainy mustard or some jelly or jam. If you don't like a cheese, and slather that on there, it'll taste even better if you like that particular condiment. So we always like to assess which you like. Do you like them both together? Did you like one more than the other? And you can make your own assessment. Okay, hopefully you like this wine. Again, pretty available across the state, and really good value. This is one that you won't break the bank stocking up on, meaning buying a couple bottles or serving it at a party. If someone asked me to pick out wines for a summer barbecue, I would absolutely pick this wine for them, because I think it, again, meets a price point. It's delicious. And I think most people would like this wine who want to drink something white and refreshing. All right. Where are we going next? Wine number 2 is going to be paired with the brie. Okay, so everyone has a triangle-shaped piece of brie. Brie is a soft, creamy, buttery cheese. It's kind of high in fat, but it's rich in calcium, so it has some positive components to it. It originates in France, around the Champagne region of France. France and Paris area, like right in between there. It is called a soft ripened cheese. Whenever you see that bloomy rind, you kind of have this edible rind that is actually mold. Again, it's not like blue cheese mold. It's not going to have a really strange, really sharp, piquant sort of flavor. But yeah, so it has this creamy interior. It is soft. It has this beautiful bloomy rind, really, really stunning cheese. And it's easy to find. Now, here's the thing about brie. We normally don't get brie in the US because brie is typically made with raw cow's milk. Okay. American versions, and the brie that you have is not made, it's made with pasteurized cow's milk. Don't worry. But it's typically made in France with raw cow's milk. If a cheese is aged for more than 60 days, then that cheese is allowed to be imported into the United States. If it is not aged for more than 60 days, they cannot import unpasteurized or raw milk cheese into the US. Okay, just a little, again, maybe you learned a second thing. So most of the brie we're eating, and once it's aged for more than 60 days, it's not that great any longer, right? It doesn't have the same sort of consistency and flavor. So that's why most brie is actually made in America, even though we might be thinking that we're eating something from France. But I like to be pretty transparent and candid with people, and that's the real deal about brie. Okay, so our next wine is a combo. It's actually the son on the right-hand side of this picture, he's currently making the wine, and the dad, so the son is George, and the dad on the left, he's kind of taking a step back, but of course, still involved. So wine number 2 is going to be the Borel Deal Gewürztraminer. Okay, so definitely pour yourself another small pour of this wine. If you have a second glass, use your next glass. If you're using the same glass, what I'd like you to do is either dump or finish that wine. I know it sounds like sacrilegious to dump wine, but I'd like you to potentially dump the wine and pour yourself just a tiny little drop of wine in your glass, and then you're actually going to season your glass, because you already had something in it. You're going to season it with that couple drops of the new wine, and then dump that out, and then pour yourself a sample. Might sound like a lot of work. You might say, I'm just pouring it in because, I don't really care. Your choice. But if I was professionally tasting wine, that's exactly what I would do. Okay. So next, we're making it all the way to Germany. So first stop was Portugal. Next stop is Germany. So I want to talk about sort of the elephant in the room here with sweet wines. So how do you make wine sweet? What you don't do, you don't add sugar. Okay. You don't make a wine and then dump a lot of sugar in it, especially if it's a high quality wine like the wines you're drinking today. These were made with really solid winemaking practices. This was not the way this. You look at the back of the label of a wine, and if it says like estate grapes or estate bottle and that sort of thing, you'll know that it's really real. If you look at, I'm not insulting anybody, so don't get offended. If you look at the back of a bottle of Barefoot, I don't know, Chardonnay, Pinot Grigio from the producer Barefoot, you'll I don't even know where those grapes are from. They might not be from the US. They might be from someplace else. They don't have to tell you. It might just say bottled in a certain area. So there's some things that, that you can look at a wine label, and maybe you could take a wine label course to understand like the quality of the wine. So for most sweet wines, how do you make them sweet? You do a couple of things. First, you stop the fermentation. Okay, so when you're fermenting grape juice into alcohol, right? That's what the juice inside your grapes are. It's really sweet, very ripe grape juice. You take your grape juice, you're going to take the sugars in the juice, and you add yeast, and the yeast eat the sugar and make alcohol. Okay, that's how fermentation works. Very simple process. Well, not very simple, but just to talk about. Yeast eat the sugar, and then they make alcohol as part of that process. So if you stop the fermentation early, you get a sweeter wine. That's how Vino Verde is made. They don't let it go all the way to completion. Okay, they don't want a 15% alcohol wine. They want to stop fermentation early. You harvest really ripe, late harvested grapes. So maybe in November, where you can get these grapes and keep them on the vine, and then they naturally accumulate a lot of sugar, just like strawberries. You don't want to eat a strawberry that's green or like pink. You want that strawberry to be that bright, juicy red, like, dribble down my chin because it is so juicy. That's the kind of strawberry or peach you'd like, right? Versus something that is just really hard and not quite ripe yet. You can also add some rot. You don't really add it. You let this fungus called botrytis grow, and botrytis adds natural sweetness to grapes because they actually concentrate the sugars inside the grape. And you could add some sugar. You could add some sugar, again, not to high quality wines. Most of the time it's illegal to add sugar to wine. But in the case of like champagne, they need to balance it out. They're allowed to add a little bit of sugar. And they do that normally with grape juice, with unfermented grape juice, instead of adding like white sugar to, table sugar to the wine itself. So our next wine is made from the grape. Again, this is Borel Deal Gewürztraminer. So how do we really pronounce Gewürztraminer? It's give, Orts, Traminer. Okay, Give, Orts, or Traminer. Some people call it Gewürz. The grape itself, it comes from. It's kind of a tricky thing, right? The Germans think it comes from Germany. The French think it comes from northeastern France. The Italians actually think it comes from northeastern Italy as well, same area as like Pinot Grigio as well. It is definitely suitable for cooler climates. Gewürztraminer does not like being baked under the Napa or Tuscan sun, right? It needs a really cool nights, cooler days, some sunshine, absolutely, but it doesn't want to be baked. Okay, it needs a cooler growing environment. Gewürz translates in German to spicy. Traminer means from Tramin. And Tramin is actually a town not in Germany, not in France, but in northern Italy. Okay, so somewhere along the way, I think the Italians might actually be winning this bet or this game of where's Gewürztraminer from. But again, it's still contested as to where the grape is really from. And this interesting thing of Traminer, just like if you were to say if someone was from New York, you would call them a New Yorker. That's the same thing when they add an ER at the end of a word in Germany or at an end of a place. So Tramin in this case is the place, and means of Tramin. So from Tramin. Okay. What else do you need to know about the grape? Let's talk a little bit about some of the characteristics. It's lower acidity. Okay, so it's not going to be super zippy like the Vino Verde. Okay, the grape itself has higher natural sugar. It tends to be fuller bodied. That lower acidity and that natural sugar kind of adds a little more viscosity to the wine. When I talk about body, I'm talking about milk, right? So is it like skim milk? Is it like whole milk? Is it like heavy cream? What's the texture that we're going for here? Can be a little viscous and a little oily sometimes. Gewürztraminer is not meant to be aged. There are some very rare examples that are meant to be aged. These wines that we're drinking today, they should be consumed soon. I hope everyone open them tonight or within the next year and drink these wines. It is a very aromatic grape. And what that means is it has these really high floral, high fruit toned flavors: lychee, stone fruit, ginger, tropical fruit, spice, really heavily scented roses, right? It has these really beautiful aromas. Again, it's not just citrus, right? It's not lime, it's not lemon, it's not orange, it's not stone. It has these really stunning aromas, these aromatic aromas in the actual grapes themselves. And it's funny, when you're like, where do these aromas come from? The same chemical compound called linalool is present in Gewürztraminer grapes, but not present in other grapes. Okay, and it's also present in like 200 other plant and fruit species on the planet. So really cool. If you want to get real nerdy with me one day, we can always talk wine chemistry, which gets really a little too intense sometimes. Okay, so let's go back to Borel Deal. So hopefully you sniff, swirled, and tasted a little bit of this wine. I always like to include a sweet wine in any of my wine tastings because I know there's someone out there who likes sweet wines, and I don't want to torture you with all just really dry wines. Okay, so this is Borel Deal. This is from a marriage in 1990. Annette Borel and Thomas Deal. Thomas is that older fellow that you saw in that picture earlier. They got together and they joined three of their family's wineries to create Borel Deal. These guys make a ton of wine. They grow a lot of different grapes. And it's really like the secret of really high quality, again, really nice price point wines. Today, the winery is run by their oldest son, George. The wine is 100% Gewürztraminer. Again, remember, some people like to call it Gewürz instead of Gewürztraminer because, just easier to say. Just a reminder, you're saying the word spicy when you say the word Gewürz. So if you're in Germany, perhaps, you may not want to just refer to it as Gewürz because they might think, I'll just have the spicy wine, whatever that means. It is 11.5% ABV, 40 grams per liter of residual sugar, which is a solid amount of residual sugar that you will actually taste. And when I drink this wine, right, I get apricot and honey and like exotic preserves. I get that real floral kind of rose petal, kind of lychee. If you've never had a lychee, go into the international aisle at your grocery store, look for a can of lychees, open them up and taste one. They kind of look a little funny, but they're super delicious. In a past life, I went to Vietnam for business and I ate lychee. I ate like a bag of lychees. I would make myself sick every day because I would eat lychees every day, like fresh ones. Just go down to like the little fruit stand at the corner, and I would just eat lychees nonstop. It was delicious, but man, it would hurt my stomach. I would eat too many. So Gewürztraminer is really fantastic with spicy food, right? So kind of like a sweet wine helps really tamper down the spicy food. If you're ever eating spicy food, you don't want to drink high alcohol wine. It's why beer is awesome when you're eating hot wings. Sweeter wine or like Gewürztraminer is great with like a spicy Indian curry or like spicy Thai food. Great with some stinkier cheese. Again, we are pairing this with the brie, but feel free to try it with another cheese, right? You know, there's no like law that you must follow when it comes to cheese and wine pairing. It's certainly up to you. And this is a 2022. You'll notice it says Cabernet. Cabernet means that these are fully ripened grapes. It's a classification in the German wine law classification system, which gets very confusing. And most wine sommeliers hate German wine law because it is so hard to understand. Again, cool with that. This is labeled as vegan. And actually it says it's 10.5%. Their tech sheet was wrong. I didn't actually look at the bottle. 10.5%. Okay, ABV, so a little bit lower. Okay, hope you enjoyed that wine. What about the next wine? Where are we going next? Well, we're going to open sparkling wine next. So this is the Perrier Rosé Brut. And this is the wine that you're going to drink next. With what cheese? We're going to go with the Cana de Cabra. Okay, Cana de Cabra. Hopefully that's the kind of the picture you got. Every part of this cheese looks different. And you'll see that this is a soft ripened cheese as well. So it has that bloomy rind. This is pasteurized goat's milk cheese. We got a goat's cheese. The inside is a little more fresh, meaning like will be a little more tangy and fudge-like than the outside. And you'll see that there is actually a cream line in this cheese. So it actually ages, of course, from the outside in. So I would try a little bit of the inside, a little bit of the outside, try them both together when you're tasting this cheese. Again, this is Cana de Cabra. It is from Jumilla, Spain. So that's kind of like the southeastern part of Spain. And it's aged for 21 days. And then it's shipped out and we get it, on the shores of the US. So Cana de Cabra, goat's milk cheese with a French wine. Okay, so France, as the map on the right hand side, it is the old world original gangsta of wine, right? This is where the majority of the grapes that we like to drink, Cabernet, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, this is where they all come from. Malbec, all of those grapes, they really come from here again. And they also think that Gewürztraminer comes from here as well, in that upper right hand, upper northeast corner of France. So France, lots of different wine regions, and they all benefit from different climatic and influences from the ocean, from elevation, from being landlocked and not having any influence. Lots of different fun stuff happens in France. They make about 5 billion liters of wine annually. 1.4 billion liters of it is exported, which means there's a lot of wine consumed in France. A lot of wine. I mean, I feel like, you come out of the womb drinking a glass of wine in France, or at least you learn about it in kindergarten or in elementary school there. In terms of wine production, they are right behind Italy. Italy makes just slightly more wine. And technically, they tend to go back and forth with who makes more wine, France or Italy. Spain is thereafter. Again, I said they make everything from Cabernet to Pinot Gris, or Pinot Grigio is where all those grapes come from. They make 2,900 different wines, and they include a lot of non-varietal labeling. So a lot of time, if you get a bottle of, let's say, French Pinot Noir, that wine may not have the words Pinot Noir on the label. It might say Bourgogne Rouge, right? Meaning it's red from Burgundy. And you would have to know that that is Pinot Noir. Hopefully you have a wine friend, or you're friends with someone at a wine shop or wine store, liquor store, grocery store, wherever you buy your wine, and they can help you find wines that you like. So you don't have to go through a French wine class just to know what you're actually drinking. So this is De Perrier Brut. Okay, it is a sparkling wine. I hope this is nice and cold, because you definitely want to make sure that your bottles of sparkling are super chilled, so that you can open it. You can open it more successfully. Okay, so there's foil. The nice thing about this bottle is that it had a little pull tab, so you can easily remove the foil. So you remove the foil, and then you undo the cage. Okay, and we call that the mousselet in France. So you undo the cage, you twist it counterclockwise 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then you can take the cage off. Now, if you were really in real service mode at a restaurant, you don't want to take off the cage, because that is still a little bit of protection from the cork flying out and hitting you in the eye, or somebody else, or breaking a window or glass or wherever. Okay, I've hit the ceiling with corks before. It is not fun. Might be fun for a minute, but you don't want to break a window or hurt somebody. If you Google like injury by sparkling wine or sparkling cork, you will find some funny, not so funny YouTube videos with people doing really dumb things when opening sparkling wine. Don't do that. Don't be that person. What I typically do, even if I take the mousselet, the cage off, I normally take a dish towel and I put it over this is a microfiber cloth. I put it over my bottle once the cage is loosened or off. And then I open it slowly by turning the bottle and just keeping the cork in place, just putting a little bit of pressure on it at a 45-degree angle, not 90 degrees. Geez, that would really hurt. And then I just slowly twist until the cork pops in my hand. Okay. Some people like to pop the cork out. That could create bubbles all over the place. You also have no idea how much force is in the bottle. Okay. Again, if you keep a cloth over it and you keep your hand securely on it, this cork should not go anyplace. Okay, but stay right here and open up right in this spot. Don't get a saber or a knife and try to do anything fun and fancy. Just be very careful when you're opening it. And the what else do I need to tell you? Okay. Here, gentle pop. Don't shake the bottle. One of my team members really truly thought that you shook the bottle because, like in a rap video or like in a celebration video, you want the bubbles to go all over the place. That is not what you want to do. You want to keep your wine in the bottle, because then you're going to be wasting all that extra that goes all over the place. Keep it safe, keep it smart. Don't shake the bottle ahead of time and open it. And I hope I didn't scare anybody, just so you know. More people die from a champagne cork than a bite from a poisonous spider annually. Just in case I wasn't clear. Okay, now, so now that you've opened your bottle of sparkling, okay, your bubbles, let's talk about, make sure you pour some in your glass. Let's talk about sweetness and labeling. So when it says brut on the label, okay, there are different terminologies that are on the label, and these by law must correspond with how much residual sugar is in that wine. So if it says brut 0 or 0 dosage, it will be bone dry, 0 to 3 grams per liter of sugar, which is nothing. To give you an equivalent of, like, when I talk about grams per liter or grams of sugar, a liter is not a bottle. This is less than a liter. A liter is 7 glasses of wine are in a liter of wine. So a liter is a bottle and a half of a normal 750. This is 750 milliliters. Okay, so we got that math part 1. A a gram, 1 single gram of sugar, okay, is equal, hold on, let me take this the other way. 1 teaspoon is equal to 4 grams of sugar. Okay, 1 teaspoon of sugar is 4 grams. Teaspoon, 4 grams. If it has 3 grams per liter in it, that means there's 3 grams across 7 glasses of wine. Okay, so 3 into 7 divided by 3 is a very small amount. Okay, like we're talking crystals of sugar, like one little tiny little speckle of sugar in your glass. Okay, it's just trying to give you the equivalent here. We need some bigger numbers of sugar to really do a better job of calculating. All right, so for example, I said this was 40, this was a lot, our last wine at 40 grams per liter. Okay, so 40 into 7, so let's, or yeah, 40 divided by 7 is 5. Okay, so that means that there's 5 grams of sugar in your 5 grams of sugar in a single glass. Okay, and then how many teaspoons is that, right? Well, if there are 4 grams in 1 teaspoon, all right, so that's about a teaspoon and a quarter. Okay, teaspoon and a quarter. Not a ton of sugar for something that tastes sweet. Okay, most people put way more sugar in their morning coffee than what you had in wine number 2. Wine number 3, the sparkling wine, is brut. Okay, so brut means it could have between 0 and 12 grams per liter. Again, so this is not even, right? This is like, it's like nothing. No, barely any sugar in this wine. Okay, so brut, extra brut means that it's even more brut and has even less sugar in it. Extra dry means it has more sugar. Dry doesn't always mean dry, just so you know, in the wine world. If something is labeled extra dry, then on the physical label, then it actually has a little more sugar in it than it would if it was brut. I know, a little crazy. Most Proseccos are extra dry, and they might not label it, or they might label it on the back. Okay, just to give you an idea, if you drink La Marca, Mignonetto, what other Proseccos are really popular? Most Proseccos, most commercial Proseccos are actually extra dry. Okay, then you have sec, and then you have demi-sec. Sec is off dry, so that's definitely, you'll have a bit more sugar, and then demi-sec as well. Now, if you like sparkling wine and it has a cork, you got to buy one of these things. We have them all over the restaurant. We use these to keep the bubbles in, and it's a really nice Google sparkling wine closure, and you'll be able to find this on Amazon or any place else. It's like $5, really cheap, not expensive, and it lasts for a long time. When you're opening it, just be careful because the carbonation builds that back up into the sparkling wine. I probably should have told you this ahead of time, but hopefully you drink the bubbly and it'll still be fine by tomorrow. Okay, so De Perrier Brut Rosé, 11.5% alcohol. This is a blend of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Remember, you were drinking this and eating the Canne de Cabra cheese, okay, the goat's milk cheese. On the nose, red currants. Oh, I forgot to pour myself some. Hang on. Okay, I have an open bottle. By the way, this is one of those openers. I don't know if you heard that, but definitely let out a little bit of gas from the bottle. Okay. All right. This is nice, pretty pink color. Yep. So like just ripe strawberries, not juicy fruit. It's not like, again, it's not like super red, but like almost super ripe. Peach, little cherry. Okay. Take a sip. Tasty wine, fun, flirtatious, delicious, not sweet. Again, it is brut. It is not intentional. It's not meant to be sweet. If you're ever tasting sweetness, that could also be ripeness in the wine itself, but it's dry. It's a dry sparkling rosé. Many people think rosé are going to be very sweet. Truth is that white Zinfandel back in the 80s and early 90s kind of ruined that whole blush concept of pink wine. And so everyone just thinks, oh, it's going to be sweet. 90% of the rosé out there are not sweet, are dry. Now, this is Chardonnay. Chardonnay is a white grape. Pinot Noir is a red grape. You get the color from the Pinot Noir, but the majority of this wine is made from Chardonnay grapes. They blend it a little bit, and that's when you get a pink wine. In most rosé, you're really not allowed to blend legally. Most rosé must be 100% made from, other than non-sparkling rosé, still wine rosé, must be made from 100% of red grapes, Pinot Noir. A lot of times you'll see Grenache, Cinsault, if you're drinking Provence style rosé, different grapes. Okay. And our last wine, so sad. Okay, final wine. I'd love to know which wine you guys like the most or didn't like the most. If you don't like a wine, I'm going to tell you a secret, or if you have wine left over, make sangria. So if I ever have wine left over, my mom's like, bring it home to me. I was like, okay, Mom. I'll put peaches in my wine. We're very Italian, so she likes me to bring her wine, and she'll put peaches in it and then soak them and then eat the peaches. I don't know, over the course of a month or so, and just have like wine soaked peaches. Okay, that's one. Make sangria. You can Google sangria. You can make a white sangria, a rosé sangria. You can make a red sangria, right? Make sangria. Go buy some additional fruit, cut up some apples or whatever fruit you have in your house, if you have any. No bananas, but like apples, peaches, pears, berries, strawberries, blueberries. I'm just naming whatever fruit that I'm thinking that are in my house right now. Throw some wine in, throw some peaches. You could add some sugar. You can add some brandy if you have that. Google a recipe. You'll be set. But yeah, so if you have any leftovers, this weekend might be nice. Great to have some sangria in the fridge. So, or you can cook with it. Red wine, white wine. I wouldn't really cook with sweet wine, but certainly any of the whites, reds, you definitely feel free to cook with those wines. How long would it last in the fridge? So number one, I would keep all of these wines in the fridge, even the red. Oh, I know, sounds crazy, right? Sounds like I lost my mind. Wines oxidize. As soon as you open them, they begin to degrade. Okay, so they never will taste the same as when you first open the wine. Okay, sometimes wine needs time, it needs some air to breathe, especially red wines. White wines typically not. So I typically recommend people store their wines in the fridge. Again, some people they don't really care, and they'll drink a bottle even if it's like 2 weeks old. Me, I probably won't drink something just because I'm a kind of a purist, not a snob, but a purist. And I want to drink the wine the way the winemaker really wanted me to taste it. So I normally won't drink something that's open for more than 3 days, because I feel like 3 days is just enough time for it to not be as delicious as it was when I really first opened it. But I do store my reds in the fridge once they're open. If it's a cork wine, don't store it on its side. It's going to drip all over the place. That will not be bad. Try to store it upright, as upright as possible. Okay. Wine number 4. Oh, who knows the people who say I cannot drink red wine because of the sulfites in the wine? Bad news, folks. It's not the sulfites. If you look at every bottle of wine, it will say contains sulfites. We require that in America. If it contains more than 10 parts per million sulfites, which is naturally occurring as part of any wine fermentation, it must say contains sulfites, because there are truly people with sulfite allergies out there. Okay. It's not the sulfites if you're getting a headache. Here's the crazy thing. White wines have more sulfites than red wines. So definitely not the red wine. Sweet wines tend to have more sulfites than any type of wine, than a dry wine or a dry white or dry red. And if you can eat dried fruit, whether it's mango or raisins, dried fruit has 10 times more sulfite than any wine on the planet. Okay, so if you can eat dried fruit, it's not a sulfite thing. What it could be, again, here comes my little scientist, put on my lab coat, my safety glasses. What it could be is something, a different compound class called biogenic amines. And these are things like histamine, which you might be familiar with from Turkey, right? Sorry, Turkey, from natural I'm not reading off anything. This is because I swallowed some wine before. I can't think now. Might be something from histamines, like natural allergies, right? That you may have. So there are histamines also in wines, more so in red wines, and tyramines. So again, tyramines are also found, or they are naturally occurring, and more so in red wine than white wines. Red wine has 20 to 200% more histamine than white wine. So it might be the histamines. So what does that mean? Now, I'm not a doctor. Do not take any medical advice from me. But if you take a seasonal allergy medicine, like over the counter, like a Zyrtec, for example, you're going to drink some red wine tonight. Might help out a little bit if you took a little bit of that seasonal allergy medicine before you decided to pour yourself a glass of wine, because it will help combat the same histamine that you would have as part of a seasonal allergy. Okay, so again, hopefully you learned something. It's truly not the sulfites, unless you truly have a sulfite allergy. And if you do eat that dried fruit, trust me, you are probably not having a sulfite issue. Our last stop on our summer vacation wine tour is Italy. Okay, I'm 100% Italian. I happen to be a little biased to Italian wines. I love wines from all over the world, but I also really love Italian wine and Italian food. The cheese is your final cheese. This is the one that I said it has a little paper on it. This is Piave, and this is actually Piave Vecchio. So this is better than just Piave. If you go to the grocery store, you'll probably see Piave. Piave Vecchio, we call it the torture cheese because it is a super hard cheese. It is hard to cut. A lot of cursing happens in the kitchen because it is such a tough cheese to cut, which is why you typically break it off like that in chunk. You don't want to cut it with a knife. You normally want to get one of those little stabby knife cheese things and just break off chunks of it, or even use a tip of a knife, because as you get further in and it gets thicker, it's like you need like serious muscles to cut this thing. Piave Vecchio and Piave in general is a cow's milk cheese. It comes from northeastern Italy, from the Veneto region, close to Venice. It is nutty, a little tropical, kind of crystalline, almost like a Parmigiano Reggiano, and you can eat it like a parm. You can shave it or grate it if you wanted to. You can shave it on, or it's maybe like a salad, and it's aged for 12 months. If it's the Vecchio, the old version, it's aged for 12 months. Regular Piave is less than 6 months of aging, but this has to be aged for at least 12 if it's labeled as Piave Vecchio. And what we are doing is we are going to Piedmont. So Piedmont is the 6th highest producing wine region in Italy. Piedmont is actually on the northwestern part. So the cheese is from the Veneto, the northeastern part of Italy. The wine is from the northwestern part, from Piemonte. It is has the most wine regions inside of a region. So this has 59 regions and the most DOCs and DOCGs than any other region. And you might be like, what are you saying? Is it the ABCs and the XYZs? What is DOC and DOCG? Some of you may have noticed that there is a label on the majority of Italian wines that have been blessed. Not necessarily blessed. It's not like it's kosher or blessed by the Pope, but it means that they follow a specific set of rules in order to be labeled as a certain type of wine that are designated by the DOC or the DOCG. And it stands for Denominazione di Origine Controllata e Garantita, which basically saying is that we're guaranteeing you what this bottle says it is really it is. Okay, and I've said that in a weird way. DOC doesn't mean it's any worse. There are some regions that don't have a DOC, and I'll talk about that in a second in Italy, or some specific appellations. These guys have more DOCs and DOCGs than any other wine region in Italy. Now, Piedmont translates to the foot of the mountain, foot meaning Pied, mont meaning mountain. And it is at the foot of the Western Alps, which is right here. Okay, you can see that elevation. You'll see it more on my next map. The Apennine Mountains start here, okay, or to the southeast, and they run down Italy like a spine, and very favorable climate. It's very close to France, actually kind of close to Switzerland as well. Switzerland is here, France is here, right over the mountains, right over the Alps. Piedmont is known for the following grapes: Nebbiolo, which is the king grape in Italy, Nebbiolo, Dolcetto, Moscato, and Barbera. Okay. We are in Piedmont. We are focusing on Asti. Asti, you might be like, Asti. What do I know about Asti? Asti Spumante. Okay, that's Moscato. That's a sweet wine. That is not what we are drinking. We are drinking the red wine, our final wine. It is red. It is not sweet. It is from Asti. Asti grows a ton of Moscato grapes, but they also grow some red grapes as well. And if you really take a look at this map, you will see all of that elevation from the Alps, right there. You get these really beautiful views of the Alps from the area. And Asti is right in the middle of Piedmont. If you drink Barolo or Barbaresco, they're basically neighbors. Barolo is here. Barbaresco is even closer to Asti. And again, like you get it's kind of split into two areas here and here. And yeah, Piedmont's a pretty special place. I'm visiting Piedmont in August, so I'm very excited about that. I've been to Italy many, many times. I've never been to Piedmont though. Just never made it up to, I've been to Milan, but I've never been to the actual region of Piedmont. So 2021, Tenuta Santa Chiara. If you need a little lesson in how to say things in Italian, a CH is always a hard K, like Christine, right? CH, Christine, Chianti, Chiara, always a hard K. A CI, okay, or CE, for example, like a C in a vowel, is always a ch. God, that's hard to remember. If you can say fettuccine, like fettuccine Alfredo, which isn't a real Italian dish, it's an American dish. If you can say fettuccine, you know how to say a CI in Italian, right? CI is a ch, right? CI is ch, CH is k. So this is Santa Chiara, okay? Tenuta Santa Chiara Barbera d'Asti. Okay? That's what we're drinking next. So 2021. Please make sure you pour yourself some. And that final cheese, the Piave, is the one you want to pour here. Also, oops, I forgot to mention earlier, if you didn't scarf down all the brie, I would try this with brie too. I think it might be kind of fun with the brie, in my opinion, because I feel like the fruitiness and the red fruitiness with the brie is going to make it really nice together. Kind of like when you make one of those brie puff pastry things that, I don't know, kind of were like all the fad, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, where you take a piece of puff pastry, you put a round of brie, you slather some jam, like berry jam on top. You close it all up and you put it in the oven, and then you come out and it's oozing and delicious. That whole like brie and jam thing gives me the same sort of vibe with like a fruity red wine like this Barbera d'Asti and brie. So if you save some brie, definitely pair that with it as well. Little brie, little sip, little brie. Okay, but it's really meant to go with the Piave. So Barbera d'Asti, let's take a sniff. I mean, to me, this smells like I got a bowl full of cherries right in front of me, or like cherry pie. Like I get it, like to me, it's just this really juicy cherry, little raspberry, plum, very plummy. Maybe you get some plum as well. And something floral. I said a little bit of violet, but to me, I get like something floral. I always like to say, is this like a white flower, right? I mean, go smell some honeysuckle, sniff some violets, sniff pansies. You know, if you're going to Home Depot and you're too macho to sniff some flowers at the grocery store, go sniff them in the garden center at Home Depot or Lowe's, right? Take a sniff and you'll see that flowers smell different, right? Everyone knows what a rose smells like. Flowers all smell different. Just smell a little violet if you see one. Really bright and beautiful and just smells fantastic, right? All right, so let's take a sip. delicious. My mouth is watering. When you salivate after you drink some wine, when you salivate, it means that the acidity is really bright and fresh in the wine. Your salivary glands on your tongue and your mouth begin to salivate when it hits acidity, just like if you were to lick a lemon, right? I mean, yes, it's bitter and like you're going to make a funny face, but when you're drinking wine and you begin to salivate, it should have happened when you drank the Vino Verde. It should have also happened it should not have happened when you had the Gewürztraminer, because Gewürztraminer is lower in acidity. So when I'm blind tasting wines and I'm trying to guess what grape this is, I have no idea. When I'm trying to guess, I assess the acidity. Is it making me salivate? Now, Barbera could be grown in both Asti and Alba. Barbera d'Asti is a DOCG wine. Barbera d'Alba is only a DOC wine, so it doesn't have the same level of classification. Barbera likes to be grown in the middle of the slope. Piedmont is very rolling hills and kind of picturesque, very picturesque, not kind of, very picturesque. And Barbera is grown in the middle of the hill. It doesn't like the top of the hill. It's too cold. Doesn't like the bottom. It's not going to retain its acidity. Likes to go right in the middle of the hill, which there's plenty of room for Barbera in the Asti region. This wine is not oaked. No oak, stainless steel. It's fermented in stainless steel and then aged in stainless steel. And I would store this in the fridge. And I would actually drink it with a little chill, maybe not directly out of the fridge, not like 37 degrees Fahrenheit, but maybe, I don't know, take it out of the fridge, wait 5 minutes if you can, or pour a big glass. And then by the time you get to half the glass, it's going to be at the right temperature to drink, unless you're chugging the wine. This wine is vibrant, has this beautiful acidity. This wine is going to be super versatile. When I drink a wine and I'm assessing it, and I'm like, what would I pair with this? I'm looking at the acidity and flavors and what really goes together. In Italy, it's like what grows together goes together right now, because the cheese is Italian, the wine is Italian. But this doesn't taste like a really earthy, herbaceous wine. It's not like a Chianti Classico or Brunello. It's really delicious, vibrant, and fun. I really, really love this wine. I would drink it with pizza. I think it would go great with tomatoes and mozzarella, falafel sandwich, right? I would really, this is the wine that I would bring to anybody's house, because I think it's going to go with most food. Unless you told me that we're doing Chinese food tonight, maybe I would, I would have this with like chicken and green beans, right? Like a chicken and green bean, or maybe chicken and broccoli. Still would rock this wine. It would be absolutely delicious. Okay, so we're done with the wine part. I hope you really enjoyed the class. I want to just mention 2 more things before we go, and I have no connection to any of these. Most people are like, oh, what do you like to read? If you really want to read something about wine, not necessarily learn too much about wine, right? You're not like in like learning school mode or anything, but you want to read some really great books about wine, or like have a wine story. Cork Dork, awesome book, and I have no skin in the game with any of these books. These are books I've read and I personally really have enjoyed. Cork Dork, great book about someone who had no wine experience and then decided to join the wine world and see if they could become a sommelier. Kind of like me, but not really about me. Tangled Vines, I cried like a blubbering baby reading this book. So about greed, murder, obsession, and an arsonist. Really great book, like such a like true story, great book. And then The Judgment of Paris. Again, if you ever wanted to have some serious patriotism and really be proud to be an American, read this book. It talks about the Judgment of Paris, when an American wine beat French wine in 1976. There's a movie about it, which I'll talk about in a second. If you want to learn more about wine, so now you want to like get a little nerdy and like read all, like go deeper and read why Cabernet tastes the way it does, and why it's different here and there. 3 books I'd recommend. Kevin Zraeli's Windows on the World. That was a restaurant in the Trade Center It's he has this great wine book called The Complete Wine Course. I buy this for all of my staff who want to learn about wine. I don't force them, whether you're kitchen staff, a dishwasher. I buy this for every one of my employees at my restaurant. Wine Folly, great book, great reference guide, especially if you're looking for pairings. And then Wine for Normal People by Elizabeth Schneider. She also has a podcast, which I really like to listen to too. And I always recommend for people who are just wanting to dabble in wine and learn a bit about wine. If movies are more your speed, and you don't like to read or listen to books, you can also do Audible as well. Bottle Shock, that's the one that's about the Judgment of Paris. It actually has Alan Rickman in it, may he rest in peace, and Bill Pullman. It's a really nice story. It's a little cheesy, but really good movie. A Year in Burgundy takes you through all 4 seasons and what happens in Burgundy, France. Sour Grapes, my gosh, like, book about a criminal or a movie about a criminal. I definitely would recommend you watch that. The name Rudy Kurniawan will forever be ingrained in your brain as a trickster and a liar and a cheat, but really good movie. And then the Somm documentaries. I don't know if this is on Amazon still, but it tends to switch streaming providers. The Somm series, especially the Somm one, the first Somm, will basically keep you on the edge of your seat and make you understand that people who go to become on or try to be master sommeliers are really insane because of the amount of studying and the crazy amount of pressure and what you need to do in order to become a master sommelier. I'm a certified sommelier. I am an advanced sommelier student, which is the step before master somm. I'm on record. I'm being recorded, so I will say that my plan is to continue on into the master sommelier level. I got to pass my advanced class next year, my advanced exam, which is tasting, service, and a written exam as well, like a knowledge assessment, and then move on, get to the master somm level. There's only one master sommelier living in New Jersey, and he's in North Jersey, and it's a man. So I would be the first female master somm in New Jersey, which again, I'm not there yet. I got a long time to go, a couple years, but check back in and maybe I will be that person. Who knows? As always, thank you so much for attending the class. Thank you so much for supporting the kids, attending camp this summer. I was really thrilled to hear the number. I got a little chills when I heard the number of kids who will be able to attend the YMCA summer camp program this summer. Thanks to your generosity. Thanks for spending an evening with us. Thanks for drinking wine and eating some cheese. And I really hope you had a great time. I hope you learned a few things, maybe found a new wine that you like, and want to keep supporting. So appreciate that. Thank you so much for attending. Have an absolute wonderful, wonderful night, and cheers to you.